Hey, what's up, y'all? Crazy McKormik up in this motherfucker. And, it's been a week since the last time I saw you. Since the last time you saw me. And, hold on a second. I gotta. Did I have an extra drink in here? Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so. Okay, so last week, if you weren't here, you, you saw that I was doing some critique, if you will. Hold on a second. Or if you won't, I did some critique last week on the first episode of Tropes versus Women in Video Games, Part 1, done by Anita Sarkeesian, due to her channel Feminist Frequency on YouTube. So we reviewed the video, and I basically just tore it the fuck apart because it was talking about the damsel in distress trope within the birth of fucking video games, and now because of how long video games have been around and things of that nature. Like she started with the retro stuff, and then now we're moving more into stuff. It's still a little bit of the retro scene where it's where she stopped. She stopped right around 16, right around the 16-bit era. So now we're going to be moving into the realm of like the Sega Saturn, the Sega Dreamcast, the Nintendo 64, Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, so those specific eras before we get into current gen. Which since this is the retrospective, I don't really want to get into current gen shit as much as the next man. So basically, we're going to be stopping at part 2, and then we're just going to move on to some of the other videos that she's done. I'm probably not even going to bother with part 3, but we are going to do part 3 right now. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Let's see, where is my playlist here? And let's go ahead and see if we can tear this bitch another one so she can have a fifth hole. Beatrice! Alright, here we go. Yep. Okay, yep, so enough.
Welcome to the second episode in our multi-part series exploring the roles and representations of women in video games.
Yep.
This project examines the tropes, plot devices, and patterns most commonly associated with women in gaming from a systemic, big-picture perspective.
Now, before I get into this, I do want to reiterate that this isn't necessarily like me femme-bashing or anything like that, because let's be honest here. There is such a fucking thing as female gamers. I don't know if Anita Sarkeesian realizes this, but there are a lot of female gamers that do still play a lot of these older games, and it just sounds like it's just like fucking man hate club shit coming out of her mouth this entire time. Unfortunately, that's the only thing that registers in my head. It's just like these men, these males that make it so females are a trope in the fucking games because, video gaming is a male dominated fucking thing. Like, you have no idea how many fucking females I see on Twitch.
Over the course of this series, I will be offering critical analysis of many popular games and characters.
Now, by critical, she means one-sided arguments.
But please keep in mind that it's both possible, and even necessary, to simultaneously enjoy a piece of media while also being critical of its more problematic or pernicious aspects.
This isn't problematic!
I caution viewers that as we delve into more modern games, we will be discussing examples that employ some particularly gruesome and graphic depictions of violence against women.
Awesome.
I'll do my best to only show what is necessary, but this episode does come with a trigger warning.
Libtard. And once again, drunk. She's doing these while she's drunk, I swear to Christ. Or high, or something. In order to fucking actually get this thought process to go through her goddamn head.
It's also recommended that parents preview the video first before sharing with younger children.
Why? Unless you're going to show blood or some form of decapitation at all times, then I don't see a problem with this shit. You're not cussing, and they're being violent to women? Okay. Let's continue on with your poor attempt at bashing a plot device.
In our previous episode, we explored the history of the damsel in distress and how the trope became so pervasive in classic era games from the 80s and early 90s. We also explored some of the core reasons why damsel characters are so problematic as representations of women.
Like how Mario's playing fucking Famicom.
As a trope, the damsel in distress is a plot device in which a female character is placed in a perilous situation from which she cannot escape on her own and then must be rescued by a male character.
Okay, so what if it was a female? What if everybody that was replacing the male characters with female characters, like, would that better the situation in your case, Anita Sarkeesian? Like, it's just like, oh, I gotta help my sisterly friends or whatever the fuck.
Usually providing an incentive or motivation for
girl power
this quest. Now, it might be tempting to think that the damsel in distress was just a product of its time, and that by now, surely the trope must be a thing of the past. Well, while we have seen a moderate increase in the number of playable female characters, the plot device hasn't gone away. In fact,
end of argument! Just flat out end of argument right there. Like, you just ended your own fucking argument, Anita. Like, there has been an increase of female protagonists in the gaming industry. You showed a couple of examples. There's been female protagonists throughout gaming history. You just want to focus on the bad things, according to you.
Damsel in distress has seen a bit of a resurgence in recent years.
No, it's never gone away! You dumb bitch! It's never fucking gone away. Okay, so let me get this straight. I'm gonna rewind this a second. So look, for one, she shows Beyond Good and Evil for the regular Xbox. She shows Mirror's Edge, which ended up being on all three forms of fucking gaming, like on all the major platforms during that time. It was on PC, it was on PlayStation 2 or 3, I believe. You know, it was part, you know, it was on Xbox, it was on all the major systems as far as I know. I could be wrong on this, but fact of the matter. You know, like, this should be you saying, okay, girl power, we're fucking winning the battle. That doesn't really exist, but we're winning it.
In the number of playable female characters, the plot device hasn't gone away.
Let's see some of the games that she shows.
Seen a bit of a resurgence in recent years.
Okay, such as a female being abducted by a fucking demon in Omnimusha. Okay, so now a chick, like a blonde chick being fucking kidnapped by a ninja. Okay, Time Splitters, woman being fucking tied to a cross by a demon. Okay, chick being abducted by a angelic devil with a giant fucking sword. Okay, that is not that big of a deal. It's fucking Disney. You're gonna hate on Disney? It's fucking Mickey Mouse. What the hell's wrong with you? Okay, that one. Let's take a look at that. King smacking a woman, you know, because he's in a position of power and he's a glutton for fucking dominance. I'm sure, like, why don't you also fucking realize that this trope is taking place around, let's see, the 17th century, just based on a guess. Okay, grabbed by the ghoulies. Okay, so woman being held captive by a ghost. Okay, Resident Evil 4, like, do you not understand the plot of Resident Evil 4? Do you not understand the plot of Resident Evil? Company turns people into zombies, world domination, one guy tries to stop him, tries to stop said company. What's his weakness? Probably this woman. Okay, woman behind a fence.
Get me out of here.
Okay. 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 Okay.
He's hurt.
Wait. Ghostbusters? Ghostbusters, the video game. Let me see that again. What? Okay. Okay, so how is this your trope? How is this your trope? And on top of that, how are you gonna hate on fucking Ghostbusters? What's wrong with you?
He's hurting me.
Splatterhouse. We already covered this one in the last episode, Anita. Okay, Ninja Gaiden and so. Okay, Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. You're gonna try to tear apart Star Wars: The Force Unleashed too. Like, do you not realize that in the first one, Starkiller was the villain? He was Sith and slowly became Jedi, so therefore he was a good guy. If he continued to be a Sith, he wouldn't care. So, like, the fact of the matter is that he cares about this woman. And that's why Starkiller is going to fucking save her.
Alice?
Okay. Okay.
What a dear little bird you are.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Good.
Suffice it to say, the trope is alive and well even today. And since the majority
Because
of
it
these
sells.
titles focus on delivering crude, unsophisticated male power fantasies, developers are largely unwilling to give up
I hate this
damsel
bitch.
distress as an easy default motivation for their brooding male heroes or anti-heroes.
Yeah, because, you know, I love to engage in a male power fantasy where I am a half demon. I can literally hear myself fucking blinking right now. I wish you guys could, because that would make for an awesome sound effect. Just, what the fuck?
Remember that as a trope, the damsel in distress is a plot device used by writers, and not necessarily always just a one-dimensional character type entirely defined by victimhood.
Okay, so why are you creating this argument then?
Now and then, damseled characters may be well-written, funny, dynamic, or likable.
I'm just trying to set you on fire through this stupid hat.
What a delightfully mean little brain you have.
However,
Yeah, see, like, so then what's the issue?
this extra character development tends to make their eventual disempowerment all the more frustrating. Damsels on the more sassy end of the spectrum may struggle with their captors, or even attempt an escape on their own.
Yeah!
Inevitably, their efforts always prove futile. Occasionally, they may be allowed to offer the hero a last-minute helping hand, or to kick the bad guy while he's down, but these moments are largely symbolic and typically only happen after the core adventure is over or the danger has passed.
Okay.
These token gestures of pseudo-empowerment don't really offer any meaningful change to the core of the trope, and it feels like developers just throw these moments in the last minute to try and excuse their continued reliance on the damsel in distress.
Story.
Periodically, game developers may attempt to build a more fleshed-out relationship or emotional bond between the damseled character and the male protagonist. In the most decidedly patronizing examples, depictions of female vulnerability are used as an easy way for writers to trigger an emotional reaction in male players.
Yeah, so where's the
As we
problem in
discussed
this?
our first episode, when female characters are damseled, they're often
Like, okay, Anita, what's the problem in this? Okay, so like if a player, doesn't matter if they're male or female, is engaged this deeply into the story and something happens to somebody in the fucking game, the player is going to feel that shit. They're going to feel the motivation to want to continue to play. That's the reason why they pay $60 for these fucking things. Because they get emotionally involved in some of these games that involve these type of fucking storylines. If we had it your way in all these video games that came out that did not have these female fucking tropes in them, all we'd be doing is playing 2K. That's it. Or it would just be us playing video games and where the female is the constant dominant fucking role. Like, do you see where your argument becomes moot? You would, like, if you had it your way, the gaming industry would be blown back to the fucking gaming crash in 1983.
sensible agency is removed, and they're reduced to a state of victimhood. So narratives
So?
frame intimacy, love, or romance as something that blossoms from
Okay, these are two games that nobody's ever played.
or hinges upon the disempowerment and victimization of women are extremely troubling because they tend to reinforce the widespread regressive notion that women in vulnerable, passive, or subordinate positions are somehow desirable because of their powerlessness.
No! No! As a matter of fact, let me see what you said. I'm just gonna rewind it, hear what you have to say again.
Because they tend to reinforce the widespread regressive notion that women in vulnerable, passive, or subordinate positions are somehow desirable because of their powerlessness.
No, that's not the case at all. Like you showed Star Fox for GameCube, um, the in the last episode, and I explained that this was love at first sight. There are other times where women are used because of a weakness in the protagonist because of how close of a bond that they have with them. That's the reason why this trope fucking exists. For just not that factor, but also the factor that when it concerns when it concerns the type of fucking storyline and stuff like that, like I had just said before, it's about the investment that the player is putting into the game. When like at the very beginning, they end up seeing, okay, these two are involved with each other. Something happens to the female because the protagonist is the male. And therefore, it gives them a reason to want to continue playing. You might try to say, "Oh yeah, well, it's just a trophy." No, it's a return. It's a reuniting. And then at the end of the game, when you beat it and the guy ends up getting his girl back, it's a dopamine effect to where it shows off some sort of a fucking satisfaction, not because you just won the prize, but also because you see that these two lovers end up being reunited.
Unfortunately, these types of stories also help to perpetuate the paternalistic belief that power imbalances within romantic relationships are appealing, expected, or normal.
Wait, what?
Also help to perpetuate the paternalistic belief that power imbalances within romantic relationships are appealing, expected, or normal.
How are they not normal? How is being in a relationship with another person not normal? How is being in a relationship with somebody and somebody ends up getting kidnapped or taken or abducted or whatever or killed even, and it doesn't create a motivation to fucking either get reunited with the person that you love or to get revenge on the love that you lost? How is the motivation behind those two tropes fucking bad?
Okay, so we know that the damsel in distress is alive and well in gaming.
Who drew this? I know it wasn't Anita. Is this part of that $150,000 that you got for this poorly done series? Did some of the money go into that particular picture? Who's the model for that? I want to know. Because Jesus. And it's purposefully. Oh my God. Wherever this is from, I'm not sure if this is from a video game or for what, or if this was actually drawn by somebody else that Anita fucking had to pay in order to get this picture. But it's like, you see those, you see the black wires, like they're supposed to be like wires in the foreground and stuff like that, and how one of them is just designed specifically to go past the fucking panties, so you can't really see the panty shot. It's kind of funny.
But that's not the full picture. There's an even more insidious side to the story.
Okay.
Over the past decade, game companies have been desperately searching for ways to stand out in a market increasingly oversaturated with very similar products. As a consequence, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of games attempting to cut through the clutter by being as dark and edgy as possible.
Yeah, see, this was an era of rebellion. Like, to see how far the envelope in the gaming industry could be pushed. That's why we ended up getting more games with more gore and like really fucked up ass storylines and shit of that nature. And also why we have games like BMX Triple X. I love that game.
So we've seen developers try to spice up the damsel in distress cliche by combining it with other tropes that involve victimized women.
Okay.
I've identified a few of the most common of these trope cocktails, which join together multiple regressive or negative representations of women, including the disposable woman, the mercy killing, and the woman in the refrigerator. The term women in refrigerators was coined in the late 1990s by comic book writer Gail Simone to describe the trend of female comic book characters who are routinely brutalized or killed off as a plot device designed to move the male character's story arc
The
forward.
Green Lantern.
The trope name comes from Green Lantern issue number 54, in which the superhero returns home to find his girlfriend murdered and stuffed inside his refrigerator.
I mean, you gotta admit, though, that's fucking brutal.
This trading of female characters' lives for something meant to resemble male character development is of course part of a long media tradition.
Yep.
But the gruesome death of women for shock value is especially prevalent in modern gaming.
Yeah, because it creates the motivation to fucking get revenge. Because you can see how close the characters are and shit of that nature.
The women in refrigerator trope is used as the cornerstone of some of the most famous contemporary video games.
Yeah.
It provides the core motivational hook behind both the Max Payne and the God of War series, for example.
My wife, my child.
Yeah, because think of it, okay? For one, God of War, and you're playing as Kratos, right? Would it be successful if it was the other way around? If it turned out that the female was the fucking God of War, right? Or Goddess of War, and Kratos ended up being the one that was killed. I don't think that it would work the other way around.
In each case, the protagonist's wife and daughter are brutally murdered, and their deaths are then used by the developers as a pretext for their inevitable bloody revenge quest.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like every fucking video game in this format is going to be like John Wick, where John Wick fucking goes nuts because somebody killed his dog.
It's interesting to note that the reverse scenario, games hinging on a woman vowing revenge for her murdered boyfriend or husband, are practically non-existent. The gender role reversal is so unusual that it borders on the absurd. Which is one of the reasons why the scene from Disney's Wreck-It Ralph is so humorous.
Yeah, so yeah, congratulations to Disney for figuring that one out. You know, Disney, the one that you were bashing with fucking Kingdom Hearts. Fuck you, Anita.
I could do a very long video just exploring this one trope in gaming, but today I want to look at how the woman in refrigerator is connected to the damsel in distress, and specifically the ways game developers have found to combine these two plot devices.
You know, I definitely got to fucking point this out here. I'm very shocked at the fact that I had, like, I looked through the entire catalog, and I don't know if there is, like, a thing that Anita Sarkeesian did where she, like, did an entire episode praising the women in video games. Especially some of the women that we didn't even know were women until after you beat the game, and then it's like, oh shit, it's Samus. Cool. Samus is a chick.
One popular variation is to simply use both tropes in the same plotline, so as to have the male protagonist's wife stuffed in the fridge while his daughter is damseled. In Outlaws, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Who did this?
They've taken Sarah.
Yeah, that was convincing voice acting.
In Kane and Lynch, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Yep.
Find them all before they find Jenny.
In Prototype 2, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Yep.
In Inversion, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Layla, where is she?
In Asura's Wrath, your wife is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue your daughter.
Save her.
Okay, so, like, what you're arguing is the fact that it's always the grown-up female. How about this? Let's kill the kid. You know, let's murder the child and then kidnap the mother. How about we do that? Would that make you a little bit happier, Anita? Because, you know, it's a child. It's not a fucking grown woman.
In Dishonored, the Empress is brutally murdered and you then have to rescue her daughter, though it's heavily implied that she's your daughter too.
Find Emily. Protect her.
So, okay, so basically Dishonored is a combo breaker where it's not your daughter, but it's implied that it is.
It's no coincidence that the fridge plot device and the damsel plot device work in much the same way. Both involve female characters who have been reduced to complete states of powerlessness by the narrative, one via kidnapping, the other via murder.
Okay.
The two plot devices used together then allow developers to exploit both the revenge motivation and the good old-fashioned save the girl motivation.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's...
Yeah, because, you know, like, the original damsel in distress story was starting to die out, so they had to spice it up a little bit.
There's another more insidious version of this particular trope hybrid, which I call the damsel in the refrigerator. Now, you may be asking yourself, how can a fridged woman still be in distress?
No, what I'm asking myself is, why are you still talking?
Since by definition, being fridged usually sort of requires being dead.
Yeah.
Well, here's how it works. The damsel in the refrigerator occurs when...
Okay, that one is The Darkness 2, which I own. And I love that fucking shit. Hold up, she never played God of War and Max Payne. Also mythology, there's Goddesses of War. Last of Us 2 had a female character, main character, and also bisexual character. Yeah. Now, like that may be true, but keeping in mind, I've never played either one of those games. You know, because I was too busy trying to save the princess in another castle. Or this game, because this game was fucking badass. Like, how could I, being a fan of Fantomas, Mr. Bungle, Faith No More, not play this fucking game when the darkness is being voiced by Mike Patton?
The hero's sweetheart is brutally murdered.
And her kid is kidnapped, or whatever the fuck. Shut up.
And her soul is then trapped or abducted by the villain. This oh-so-dark and edgy twist provides players with a double dose of female disempowerment and allows developers to again exploit both the revenge...
Oh my god, no! The Darkness is a fucking dark novel. Like, it is a fucking indie comic book, and it got popular enough to get its own fucking video game. So the video game is really just following the comic book. Granted, it has this trope that you're fucking arguing. Still... the fact is that it's motivation to fucking get into the game. That's why they explained it at the very beginning.
Motivation and the saving the damsel motivation, but this time with the same woman at the same time.
Yeah, as pertaining to the fucking comic book, you dumb shit.
This trope combination can be traced back to old school side-scrollers like Splatterhouse 2.
Keep in mind that the first game had 2 females due to zombies. Right.
And Ghouls and Ghosts, but the damsel in the refrigerator has definitely become a more popular trend in recent years.
So?
In Medieval 2, your murdered girlfriend's soul is stolen and you must fight to save her. In The Darkness 2, your murdered girlfriend's soul is trapped in hell and you must fight to free her.
Yes!
Her soul is mine.
In Shadows of the Damned, your murdered girlfriend's soul is trapped in hell and you must fight to free her.
Okay.
In Dante's Inferno, your murdered wife's soul is trapped in hell and you must fight to free her.
And she had
In
titties.
Castlevania Lords of Shadow, your wife's soul is trapped on Earth and you must fight to free her. The damsel in the refrigerator is part of a larger trend of throwing women under the bus in increasingly gruesome ways, in an apparent attempt to interject what I'll loosely refer to as mature themes. Developers must be hoping that by exploiting sensationalized images of brutalized women, it'll be enough to fool gamers into thinking that their games are becoming more emotionally sophisticated.
Well, I mean, yeah, they are. I don't see the problem in this.
But the truth is, there's nothing mature about most of these stories, and many of them cross the line into blatant misogyny.
What?
Since what we're really...
Well, so she's just gonna say that without any explanation as to what she means by that?
Talking about here are depictions of violence against women, it might be useful to quickly define what I mean by that term. When I say violence against women, I'm primarily referring to images of women being victimized.
Yeah.
Or when violence is linked specifically to a character's gender or sexuality. Female characters who happen to be involved in violent or combat situations on relatively equal footing with their opponents, are typically exempt from this category because they're not usually framed as victims.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. But, I mean, unless they lose, then they're victimized, I'm sure.
As I mentioned in our last video, the damsel in distress doesn't always have to be accompanied by a heroic rescue.
Here I was again, with all hell breaking loose around me, standing over another dead girl I had been trying to protect.
Sometimes the hero fails to save the woman in question, either because he arrives too late, or because, surprise twist, she's been dead the whole time.
Nicole has been dead this whole time.
No! All my powers, and I couldn't do a thing.
Okay, you know what? Now, whatever lack of respect that I had for Anita is now fully fucking gone, because how in the hell are you going to talk shit about the Godfather? Let's see. Last of Us, we had a female sidekick who got playable in the first one, who almost got raped. She saved her own ass. Okay. So yeah, boom, there you go.
Or in the case of the 2009 version of Bionic Commando, not only has your wife been dead the whole time, but turns out she's actually a part of your bionic arm.
I never want you to be involved in this.
It's okay. I'll always be by your side.
Yes, you heard that correctly. His wife is his arm.
Okay. Apparently, we might possibly be skipping over Tomb Raider. Who knows? But we'll find out. We'll totally find out. I love how this poor acting facepalm. Okay, yeah. So like, let's giggle at the idea of fucking fantasy, but let's fucking yell about the female trope, I guess. Hey, you know what? Look at it this way, you dumb bitch. The female is fucking the protagonist.
But the most extreme and gruesome variant of this trend is when developers combine the damsel in distress with the mercy killing. This usually happens when the player character must murder the woman in peril for her own good. I like to call this happy little gem the euthanized damsel. Typically, the damsel has been mutilated or deformed in some way by the villain, and the only option left of the hero is to put her out of her misery himself. We can trace this one back to the original 1980s arcade game Splatterhouse, in which your kidnapped girlfriend is possessed and the player is forced to fight and kill her. After saving his bitten beloved in Castlevania Lament of Innocence, the hero must then kill her to gain the power to defeat the Vampire Lord.
Yeah, it looks like she wanted to die. So what's the problem?
In Breath of Fire 4, Alina has been turned into a hideous monster and then begs you to kill her.
Okay, so you're only doing what she asked.
In Gears of War 2, Dom is motivated to rescue his captured wife, Maria. When he finds her, she has been starved and possibly tortured into a catatonic state, and so he shoots her.
I mean, would you want to fucking take care of a vegetable?
In Tenchu Shadow Assassins,
Do it. You must.
the princess meekly asks the hero to cut her down to get to the villain, which he does. A particularly egregious example...
So, like, wouldn't that be a little bit more female empowering? That a woman is willing to sacrifice herself in order to fucking save the day and become a fucking martyr and live on in the fucking history books for the rest of her fucking life? Because the reality is that the stark fucking reality is that you live on in legacy as long as people fucking remember who you are.
Can be found in Grand Theft Auto 3. When after you've rescued Maria Latour, it's implied that the protagonist suddenly shoots her because she's talking about stereotypically girly things.
I broke a nail and my hair is ruined. I mean, can you believe it? This one cost me $50.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. Like, that shit is annoying.
The writers deliberately wrote her character to annoy the player, so in the end, the violence against her becomes the punchline of a cheap misogynist joke.
Well, yeah, because the character The character is sociopathic. Okay, the protagonist of the fucking game is not a good guy. Grand Theft Auto, the entire fucking series, is about being the villain. You are trying to take over the crime boss and the crime mob in order to fucking beat the fucking game. This is a game that is not a good versus evil thing. It's basically you're the bad guy in the fucking game. There's an interesting trope right there, so shut the fuck up, Anita.
Sometimes these killings happen via cutscene, while other games ask the player to participate directly by pulling the trigger themselves.
Oh god, she's about to go Jack Thompson on us.
Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles remake, if you don't rescue Richter Belmont's beloved Annette, she will turn into a vampire and you'll then have to kill her.
Oh my god, Annette. I'm so sorry I didn't save you. But you know what I do to vampires. What I have to do.
No! I'll make you mine forever!
The captured women in Duke Nukem 3D beg you to kill them throughout the game. This misogynist scene is regurgitated and actually made worse in the 2011 follow-up, Duke Nukem
Titties
Forever, developed by Gearbox. Another popular Gearbox game, Borderlands 2, also uses this plot twist when Angel asks the player to murder her as a way to try and thwart the villain's evil plan.
Destroying the iridium injectors that keep me alive will stop the key from charging, and it will end a lifetime of servitude.
The end of Alone...
Okay, so, once again, martyrdom. What's wrong with that? She covers the titties with pink.
in the Dark gives the player...
Yeah, there's a stereotypical trope right there for you. Women like pink. There you go.
The choice between killing your girlfriend yourself...
Choose quickly, carrier. Kill her, or let her live. You alone can decide.
Or letting Satan kill her by being reborn in her body.
Well, alright, gotta save the world. Sorry, babe. BAM! I mean, I'd do the same. I'm sure she would understand.
The Wii game Pandora's Tower includes one ending in which Elena begs you to kill her before she completes her transformation into a monster.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to be that.
Please.
So, like, okay, Anita, try to put yourself into the situation of the character that this shit is happening to. Would you want to turn into a fucking demon, or would you rather die with your fucking mentality intact?
I beg of you.
See, that's the idea behind this particular trope, is that you are... You know, like, you're not only putting yourself into the mind of the player, but you're also putting yourself into the mind of the person that is possibly turning into something that it's not supposed to be. You know, what would you rather do? That's the question. And look, he's so emotionally invested, he is crying on her dead body. Because this is something, he had no choice. The character that you're playing as had absolutely no choice in what he had to do in order to save the world. Of course! But you don't get that because it's like, oh, it's women. Female, feminazi, girl power, whatever the fuck you.
Help me. I'm so afraid.
In the 2006 shooter Prey, when the hero finally reaches his abducted girlfriend, she's been hideously mutilated and fused with a monster, which you must fight while she screams for help over and over again.
Get away from me, Tommy! She wants me to kill you! I can't stop it!
After being incapacitated, she begs you to kill her.
Please, Tommy. Let me go.
And the player can't advance in the narrative until you shoot her in the face.
That's right. That's right. Besides, she wants to fucking die. You're just doing what you have to do with love.
These damseled women are written so as to subordinate themselves to men. They submissively accept their grisly fate and will often beg the player to perform violence on them.
Okay, so as you play this game, are you taking a look at yourself as the player or as the woman that's getting shot in the face? Because if you stepped into the position of the woman, you specifically, Anita Sarkeesian, if you were to put yourself into the position of the woman, would you want to live the rest of your life like that? I'd rather die, personally.
Giving men direct and total control over whether they live or die.
'Cause penis.
Even saying thank you with their dying breath. In other words, these women are asking for it.
Yeah, they are.
Quite literally.
Yeah, they are.
The euthanized damsel is the darkest and edgiest of these trope hybrids.
No, because it's another form of fucking gaming. It's another fucking plot line into the story. The fact that she wants to not be remembered in this fashion. That's the point of it.
But it's also an extension of a larger pattern in gaming narratives where male protagonists are forced to fight their own loved ones who have been possessed or brainwashed by villains.
Yeah, see, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just another plot line. You know, it's kind of a fucking twist. It's like you spent this entire time fucking trying to save your loved one only to find out that she was brutally mutilated in a sense to where she's completely fucking unrecognizable or put into a situation that she doesn't want to be in or something of that. I've just been explaining all of this for like the last 20 fucking minutes.
When Kreyz finds his mother in the PSP game God of War Ghosts of Sparta, she morphs into a hideous beast, forcing you to fight and kill her.
Yeah, so what?
An act for which she thanks you with her dying breath.
Yeah, because Mom loves you. And even Mom understands that you had to do what you had to do.
Finally, I am free.
Yup.
After your girlfriend is transformed into a green ogre and grabbed by the ghoulies, she chases you around trying to get a kiss. Later, you must beat her unconscious before she can be returned to normal. The final boss in Shadows of the Damned turns out to be your own girlfriend.
Where's my freedom?
Who you must shoot down.
Well, yeah, because she turned out to be a fucking psycho. You don't want none of that shit.
Similar scenarios are replicated in dozens of other titles as well.
Can we also throw in that this game is racist too? Can we do that, Anita? Because I remember that argument a long fucking time ago. I mean, yeah, if they're asking you to kill them, you know, like, yeah, let's go back to that for a quick second. Like, if they're asking you to kill them, then what's the problem in killing them? You're doing what you're doing because you love.
The core element remains the same. In each case, violence is used to bring these women back to their senses. These stories conjure up
Well, let's see, like, okay, so, Anita, what you're saying is that if we were to take out the violence in order to try to get these characters to come back to their senses, how well do you think having them sit down and discuss the problem would be the best fucking means of doing that in these video games? Hit A to sit her down. Press X to tell her this, that, or the other, you know? Like, let's just give it a multiple choice possibility of what it is that you're going to fucking respond to. And if you don't get the fucking ABXY combination done correctly, then she just rips your fucking head off. And not figuratively, I mean actually, literally fucking rips the character's head off. Game over. You know, because you didn't tell her the right things. Then you would have been complaining about how it's like you're trying to coax her into getting into bed with you or some dumb fucking shit. No, it's a video game.
Supernatural situations in which domestic violence perpetrated by men against women who have lost control of themselves not only appears justified, but is presented as an altruistic act done for the woman's own good.
Well, and the world. And the world.
Of course, if you look at any of these games in isolation, you'll be able to find incidental narrative circumstances that can be used to explain away the inclusion of violence against women as a plot device.
I like how she threw in Duke Nukem Forever. However, Duke Nukem is a parody of fucking Doom. I'm just putting that out there. Borderlands is another parody fucking game.
But just because a particular event might make sense within the internal logic of a fictional narrative, that doesn't in and of itself justify its use.
Like I said before, like she is the feminist version of Jack Thompson. Like, no matter what you say, her argument is going to remain the same. Feminazism for video games and shit like that. Like, Jack Thompson hated the idea of video game controllers to have rumble capabilities in them because that way, like, shooting somebody in the head violently in a video game would create some sort of a dopamine effect with the rumble pack, to give the player the additional fucking euphoria of murdering somebody in a video game. And she's doing the same thing where it's just like, okay, so like you see the things in video games, you're going to emulate them in real life. And then the same thing is going to be said basically from Anita Sarkeesian, where she's saying you see the violence in women and you're going to emulate that in real life. Motherfucker, I've been playing video games for 30 some goddamn years and I am not in any way, shape, or form a fucking female abuser or anything like that.
Games don't exist in a vacuum, and therefore can't be divorced from the larger cultural context of the real world. It's especially troubling in light of the serious, real-life epidemic of violence against women facing the female population on this planet.
See, I told you! She's basically fucking saying this shit. If you play a video game in which you're fucking attacking women in a fucking video game, then you're going to emulate that in your relationship with your significant other? Fuck you.
Every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted or beaten in the United States.
What does that have to do with video games, though?
And on average, more than 3 women are murdered by their boyfriends, husbands, or ex-partners.
Well, yeah, because, like, they played a video game in which the woman was attached to a fucking demon, and so they saw that in their ex-wife or something, or in their current wife or current girlfriend, so they just bust a fucking cap in their skull in order to save the planet in their minds, because they saw it in a fucking video game. Like, fuck you, you goddamn bitch.
Every single day. Research consistently shows that people of all genders tend to buy into the myth that women are the ones to blame for the violence men perpetrate against them.
Citation is Grand Theft Auto 3, where the stereotypical chick is fucking complaining about breaking a nail, and the antagonist character that you play as blasts her in the fucking skull with a shotgun.
In the same vein, abusive men consistently state that their female targets deserved it, wanted it, or were asking for it.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with fucking video games!
Given the reality of that larger cultural context, it should go without saying that it's dangerously irresponsible to be creating games in which players are encouraged and even required to perform violence against women in order to save them. Even though most of the games that we're talking about don't explicitly condone violence against women,
it's not real! And as long as the person in question that is playing the fucking video game can understand that, then you're fine. If they can't, they're stupid!
Nevertheless, they trivialize and exploit female suffering.
Just as much as male suffering, because, basically, let me put it to you this way. Without these tropes, do you think men would be able to have emotion on what's going on? Because, listen, a lot of people that buy these games, and they have, and they feel that these games have replay of value behind it. And I also noticed that she didn't fucking mention Final Fantasy VII when Aerith got stabbed through the chest, from the back, out the chest by Sephiroth and his Masamune. And then left that context to go, and not explain that Cloud actually fucking showed emotion and screamed at the antagonist throughout the entire fucking time. Like, I noticed that she didn't fucking show that shit. But the fact is this. You know, without those kind of motivation to fucking play the game and having the lack of fucking storyline going on behind this shit, well, then the game wouldn't have any replay value because, you know, your argument basically, Anita, is that men have a vast majority stranglehold on the video gaming industry, and yet you're complaining about these women having fucking, you know, being attacked and all of this other stuff because of the damsel in distress situation, the fucking woman in the fridge individual, you know, and shit like that. Do you not realize that this gets the male demographic that is dominating the fucking gaming industry emotionally invested in the fucking video game? There's nothing wrong with this shit that's going on. And especially towards the end of it where you have no choice but to fucking fight the damsel in distress itself. You know, like, and you feel like, okay, I have no choice in the matter. This is what I have to do, even though I don't want to do it. Put yourself in the shoes of the character who's actually fucking doing this shit. Do you think he wants to do this shit? No, but he has to because he has to think more about himself than anything else. This is something that you're totally missing on the argument, Anita, and all you're thinking about is just the fact that females are being degraded and all of this other stuff. Yeah, they, you know, in certain cases, like within a story, you know, they kind of have to. In a story, and it's not real. And that's the problem that you're missing here.
As a way to ratchet.
How is it that the male pig in this fucking argument can actually be able to figure this one out and you can't?
Up the emotional or sexual stakes for the player. Despite these troubling implications, game creators aren't necessarily all sitting around twirling their nefarious-looking mustaches while consciously trying to figure out how to best misrepresent women as part of some grand conspiracy. Most probably just haven't given much thought to the underlying messages their games are sending.
Maybe they are, and that underlying message is that men need to show a little bit more emotion or be emotionally attached to certain things. Last week we talked about the fact that this is the plot line. This week we're talking about the fact that this is emotion. That us as dudes usually fucking hinder in real life, but in a video game where it's fantasy and things of that nature, your argument is that we're going to try to emulate this in real life. No, I'm trying to fucking tell you that we have a little bit of emotion that we can invest ourselves into these games, and that's what causes replay value.
And in many cases, developers have backed themselves into a corner with their own game mechanics. When violence is the primary gameplay mechanic, and therefore the primary way that the player engages with the game world, it severely limits the options for problem solving.
It's an action game. Action games have violence in them. I can't stress that enough. Like, do you expect everything to be a fucking puzzle game?
The player is then forced to use violence to deal with almost all situations
in action games.
Because it's the only meaningful mechanic available.
Because the mechanic is an action game.
Even if that means beating up or killing the women they're meant to love or care about.
That they have no choice in the matter and they have to step outside the box out of their own fucking selfishness in order to save the world.
One of the really insidious things about systemic and institutional sexism is that most often regressive attitudes and harmful gender stereotypes are maintained and perpetuated unintentionally.
I feel like she tries to use too many fucking big words in order to sound intelligent, but I think I've proven how retarded this bitch is.
Likewise, engaging with these games is not going to magically
weird science
into raging sexist. We typically don't have a monkey see, monkey do direct cause and effect relationship with the media we consume.
But that's something that you fucking argued a few minutes ago.
cultural influence works in much more subtle and complicated ways. However, media narratives do have a powerful cultivation effect, helping to shape cultural attitudes and opinions. So when developers exploit sensationalized images of brutalized, mutilated, and victimized women over and over and over again, it tends to reinforce the dominant gender paradigm, which casts men as aggressive and commanding, and frames women as subordinate and dependent.
Not all women. Some women, yes, but not all women, and not all men. Like, this is a oh my God, Jesus Christ. Like, herp-a-derp. Just her, right there, all together, herp-a-derp-a-derp.
Although these stories use female trauma as the catalyst to set the plot elements in motion, these are not stories about women. Nor are they concerned with the struggles of women navigating the mental, emotional, and physical ramifications of violence. Instead, these are strictly male-centered stories, in which, more often than not, the tragic damsels are just empty shells, whose deaths are depicted as far more meaningful than their lives.
You know, so that way the male character, as well as the male player, can invest some kind of emotion into the fucking storyline, thus creating a good plot. See how that went full circle?
Generally, they're completely defined by their purity, innocence, kindness, beauty, or sensuality. In short, they're just symbols meant to invoke the essence of an artificial feminine ideal. In fact, these games usually frame the loss of the woman as something that has been unjustly taken from the male hero.
I don't know, like, I want to see Anita Sarkeesian in a fucking situation where she's trying to fight off a demon that's trying to kidnap her. I want to see that. And then me as the male me as the male protagonist, I'd probably just sit there and watch her do it. Maybe eat a sandwich while it was happening. You know, a sandwich that I say that she made. You know, she made me a sandwich, and then a fucking demon came in and kidnapped her, and although she tried to fight back, this sandwich was really fucking good. Had enough Miracle Whip to put onto the fucking bologna. You know, all of that shit.
So now, I take from you.
Jackie, this is not your fault.
The implication being that she belonged to him, that she was his possession. Once wronged, the hero must go get his possessions back, or...
Wait, what? Hold on, let me rewind that. And we're also going to see her get her brains blown out again, too. There you go.
The implication being that she belonged to him, that she was his possession.
Or maybe they loved each other. Did that not fucking resonate in you? Like, Anita, do you know what? Do you even understand the concept of love? Of course you don't. You're a fucking feminist. Male-hating fucking feminist to the core.
Once wronged, the hero must go get his possessions back.
No. Loved one. He must get his loved one back. So that way they can be together again and make babies and all of that shit.
Or at least exact a heavy price for their loss. On the surface, victimized women are framed as the reason for the hero's torment. But if we dig a little deeper into the subtext, I'd argue that the true source of the pain stems from feelings of weakness and or guilt over his failure to perform his socially prescribed patriarchal duty to protect his women and children.
Yeah.
I hated myself for allowing this to happen to her and our little girl.
Yeah, so what's wrong with that? That once again, emotional investment from the character to the player.
In this way, these failed hero stories are really about the perceived loss of masculinity and then the quest to regain that masculinity.
No, it's not.
Primarily by exerting dominance and control through the performance of violence on others. Consequently, violent revenge-based narratives repeated ad nauseum can also be harmful to men because they help to further limit the possible responses men are allowed to have when faced with death or tragedy. This is
No, see, like, here's the thing, though. If a male character is seeing a, if a male player is seeing a male character riddled with guilt over something that they didn't do, they can easily get emotionally invested because that's something that men also fucking deal with. As a man, I can definitely tell you that I can sympathize with a lot of the fucking characters, and this thus creates the fucking fantasy and creates the dopamine that says, hey, I can overcome this.
Fortunate because interactive media has the potential to be a brilliant medium for people of all genders to explore difficult or painful subjects.
Okay, and why are you fucking arguing this? Because look, when video games are, you know, when the video game industry, which you claim is to be completely and utterly male dominated, which is false, you know, it's a falsification to start off with. But I'm gonna go with the ball. I'm gonna roll it. I'm gonna roll with the punches here. I'm gonna and I'm gonna fucking tell you this, Anita. Actually, no, fuck it. I just lost my train of thought because I can't believe how fucking stupid you are.
So to be clear here, the problem is not unfortunate because interactive media has the potential to be a brilliant medium for people of all genders to explore difficult or painful subjects.
Okay, so, like, the thing, though, is, like, okay, I rewound it so that way I could try to see if I could reclaim my fucking train of thought here. And I lost it again.
So to be clear here, the problem is not the fact that female characters die or suffer. Death touches all of our lives eventually, and as such, it's often an integral part of dramatic storytelling.
True.
To say that women could never die in stories would be absurd.
Yeah, but that's what you're fucking arguing, is that they shouldn't, and that they're just being used as fucking tropes? Why can't you blink correctly?
But it's important to consider the ways that women's deaths are framed and examine how and why they're written.
And there's nothing wrong with it. You're just making a fucking argument out of nothing.
There are some games that try to explore loss, death, and grief in more genuine or authentic ways that do not sensationalize or exploit victimized women. Dear Esther, Passage, and To the Moon are a few indie games that investigate these themes in creative, innovative, and sometimes beautiful ways. These more contemplative style games are a hopeful sign, but they're still largely the
Yeah, but, like, these are games I've never fucking heard of.
exception to the rule. A sizable chunk of the industry is still unfortunately trapped in the established pattern of building game narratives on the backs of brutalized female bodies.
If the fucking story ain't broke, then you don't need to fix it.
Violence against women is a serious global epidemic. Therefore, attempts to address the issue in fictional contexts demands a considerable degree of respect, subtlety, and nuance. Women shouldn't be mere disposable objects or symbolic pawns in stories about men and their own struggles with patriarchal expectations and inadequacies.
They're video games. And they're not fucking... People are not emulating this shit in real life.
The dark and edgy trope cocktails that we've discussed in this episode are not isolated incidents or obscure anomalies. Instead, they represent an ongoing, recurring pattern in modern gaming narratives.
Yeah, and that's it. Just gaming. Not in real life.
In most cases, the damseled characters have simply gone from being helpless to being dead.
Yeah, thus creating the fucking narrative.
Which is obviously not a huge improvement from her perspective.
Okay, so yeah, Corrupt Doll Emily says, Last of Us is the most popular game where there wasn't violence against women besides zombies and 2 deaths.
I know this episode has been a little bit grim, but please join me next time for the third and final installment covering the damsel in distress. We'll take a look at some titles that attempt to flip the script on the damsel, and then we'll go on a quest to find examples of the elusive dude in distress role reversal.
Yay! So there you go. There. Now we have something to look forward to next week when we cover Damsel in Distress Part 3. And hopefully we'll actually have some sort of common ground. hopefully, I hope to fucking God that we have some sort of a goddamn common ground with this trope argument, because frankly, like, Anita Sarkeesian has not shown me any hope whatsoever in how well that this is fucking going to work out for all of us. Like, the thing is that there are a lot of fucking games that are out there, and this is, like, and to me, I legitimately don't find a fucking leg that she has to stand on when it concerns these type of fucking games. Like, she claims to have done her research and she claims to be a fucking gamer, but honestly, like, I don't see whatsoever. I cannot fathom how she can consider herself to be a fucking gamer and say, "Oh, well, I enjoy these games. However, I'm going to spend a bunch of your money to fucking make a video to bitch about all of the problems that I have." Like, if it was her, then the only games that would be able to play are like fucking Pictionary and Wheel of Fortune, or Jeopardy, or have some sort of a fucking puzzle game that had absolutely no context behind it. Like, all of us would be playing the Impossible game or some dumb shit like that. Like she makes it sound like that all she wants to do is she just wants to fucking either create a fucking game where it's completely fucking role reversal, where, like, oh, let's just ban all fucking games that have anything to do with emotional investment on the male character to the female victim, or let's just make video games that have absolutely no context whatsoever and are all boring as shit. I think I remember seeing The Amazing Atheist ended up fucking making a thing where it was like, having a giant yellow square going across one frame of a fucking desert, and it takes forever for the yellow square to go across to the other side of the screen, and then it stops and it says, "You win. By the way, the square is also female." This is actually the reason why I decided to get in, to dive a little bit deeper into this fucking Gamergate shit. Is this chick fucking, like, look, if you're a gamer, you're going to fucking enjoy the storyline regardless as to what the situation is or not. You're not going to sit there and you're going to fucking complain left and right about how women are going to be fucking taken into consideration in these fucking video games. And I would say that even if you did, there would have to be some form of video game in which you have to fucking give high praise to the female characters, the female protagonists and shit. Yeah, exactly, Emily. Let's just play Pong for the rest of the time that we're, allotted here, and we'll be able to do that and fucking call it a night. Let's just play Pong. No, you know what? Let's try to play fucking Haunted House. All right, let's play Haunted House on the Odyssey, and you got to have that little thin plastic screen that you have to put on the fucking screen, on the screen of the television, and then you just have a dot that you just follow through. Boo, Haunted House. Fuck no, fuck that, fuck Anita Sarkeesian. We're going to have to fucking take care of this another time. Make sure that you tune in next week. I will be up on here later tonight. I'm going to be playing Mega Man X Command Mission on my own channel, so make sure that you follow that one. Crazy McKormik. You should know how to fucking spell that by now. And if you don't, I don't know what you're doing with your life. But with that being said, I'm going to get the fuck up out of here. Thank you guys for being here, sticking around. I'll try to be back. I'll be back on here next week, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Make sure that you follow this if you're new to this and you like our shit. So we're like currently 2 people away. We're 2 followers away from meeting our 50 follower goal. And after that, I believe it shows little to no signs of stopping towards our major goal of getting affiliate. So with that being said, I'm Kreyz McKormik. I'm out this bitch, y'all. You guys have a good one. Deuces.